Support for the Players, the PopCulturists PlayStation Podcast, is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the ultimate men's hygiene bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code FTP at au.manscaped.com. If my math is correct, and it might just be, that's about 8 million balls.
For the Players.
I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And this is For the Players, the PopCulturists PlayStation Podcast. Over 40 years of playing PlayStation and 10 plus years in that games and media combined. I'd like to thank you for joining us in this PlayStation conversation.
This PlayStation conversation happens every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on podcast services, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you'd like to take part in future conversations with us, you can. Come and check out our socials, Facebook, Discord, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those links can be found in the description below.
If you want to join the conversation as it happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopcultures, where you can watch us record this show live, where you can jump in the chat and become part of the show. If you want to support the show, you can. Tell your friends, tell your family about this PlayStation pod. If you are listening to us on podcast services, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a written review. If you are watching... If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I endeavor to answer every single comment. And if you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopculturists, as well as our merchandise store, popculturists.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit without logos on it. Or you can help support the brands and help support us, just like the team over at Manscaped. If you head over to au.manscaped.com, you can save yourself some dollary dues. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Max, I'm fucked. I am absolutely rooted. Rooted.
What'd you do?
Not sleep very much. So,
Why?
So, I know you're grilling me like your dad. Why? Why are you tired? I bet it's your.
That seems like a poor life choice.
Well, it's not a poor life choice, but there were some decisions that I made that were interesting. So, as everyone knows, I do work at DMDU, Deathmatch Wrestling Promotion here in Melbourne. So yesterday they essentially had their biggest show ever. It was a show called War Games. It was called the Great Emu War Games. Where the idea is it was the end of a massive blood feud between two parties. Obviously, the team of Deathmatch Down Under versus the team of Anti-Deathmatch Party. So the storyline was it all culminated into this absolute massive moment. Where the only way to finalize the fight would be to have two rings smooshed together with a cage around it. Anything goes, weapons, 2 teams of 5, chaos ensues. So yesterday, that's what I did. I was out of the house from 9 a.m. yesterday morning, and I got to bed at 5 a.m. this morning. So got there for setup, helped set everything up, which I could. I then... So then when the show began, I'm now the audio visual guy for the show, which was fun. I did it last night for the first time by myself. It went well-ish. So it turns out my OBS doesn't like a particular video codec. So it would play a video, but then it would hitch occasionally. But not all the videos, just some of the videos. So it depends on however they compress them or, whatever they exported them on their end when they sent it to me. And I went, thanks, and just plonked it into OBS without thinking about it. Might be a problem. So that was a minor inconvenience. Then from then, at the end of the show, during that said War Games match, a gentleman, one of the ring crew, jacked up his wrist, shattered it completely. So went to catch someone, fell backwards, blew apart his wrist. So I then had to run him to the hospital. So I was at the hospital for a little while. Then I came back, and then I helped finish the pack up. And then from the pack up, we went to the storage container where we unpacked everything from the truck into the storage container. Then drive back from Altona to Melbourne, to Geelong. And yeah, hence I got home at about 4:30, and I stood in my kitchen, and then I went to bed and fell asleep. Long day. And then I was up at like 11, 10, 11, somewhere around there. And I've been barely a functioning human all today. And like did I talk about my jacked up foot?
No.
Oh, well, you coming up with just the one word answers. So 3 weeks ago, I went to another wrestling show called Renegades of Wrestling. And during that, just before that show started, I was working in front of house, and I had one of the wrestlers go, "Hey, we need a champagne bottle for a bit. Can you please run to the closest liquor store and get one?" So like, sure. And there was like 10 minutes till doors open. So I was like, shit. So I sprinted to the nearest Liquorland. And during that, I went to step on a pile of leaves, which turns out wasn't a pile of leaves. It was just a giant hole in the ground. So I then proceeded to roll my entire ankle inwards, which then pulled and damaged all the muscles and tendon that hang around from underneath my foot up into my ankle, right where my heel sits. So that was really hurty last week. Last week and the week before. It started to go away, which was really nice. But then during all the moving around yesterday and lifting stuff and whatever, it started killing. And today it's unimaginably painful. So my body's aching from lack of sleep, foot pain, and just general doing an entire day of moving things around. And I am so brain dead. So brain dead. But why are you tired, Mac?
I also didn't get to bed till 4:30 this morning, and I also got up at 10 o'clock this morning.
You're crazy.
But that was just because I lost track of time killing one boss over and over and over again in Diablo for about 4 hours.
Jesus.
So,
Christ.
that's my life.
Was it worth it? Did it pay off?
Yeah, actually, I got from level 40 to 69. So,
nice.
We got there. Yeah, nice. Yeah, my week's been pretty chill though. Had a good family day today, which was fun. We're heading away soon, so not this weekend, but the following weekend. We're
hey Patch, if you're watching listening to this, what are you doing in 2 weeks?
Heading off for a little family vacay down to Port Fairy. So we'll be. I think we're leaving Friday. We're getting back Sunday night, possibly Monday. I'm not sure yet. Depends on how things go, because we're going with not just my family but the in-laws as well. So nice. That'll be a true test to
the resilience of everyone. Yeah,
the resilience of everyone. Yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of kids though. There's gonna be a lot of kids.
Ooh, so. Yeah, that's gonna be that. So it might suddenly just fall short.
Yeah, so there'll be 4 kids and 6 adults, and it's just like, ugh.
That's an uncomfortable ratio.
Yeah,
there's gonna be a lot of unhappy and probably just children that will like mutiny. They come together and mutiny against the parents.
Yeah, various age groups from like 1.5 up to like 8. So Jesus. They're all like in that like crappy zone.
Yeah. Well, look. So right now we're sitting here and we're talking very like monotone and blah because we're all so fucking tired. But I'll try my best to try peak some excitement right now because Max, I've been playing some games this week.
Have you finished a game this week?
No, I have not. I haven't gone back.
Oh, you suck.
No, I haven't gone back yet. But yeah, so I think last week when we recorded, we were talking about The Quarry. And at the start of the show, we were talking about how for some reason the lighting in the game is jacked up, which it totally is, but we were like, the start of the game is so unbearably dark, I don't even know how we can play it. However, this week, I think I know the answer. So, this week, one of the things I did on a relatively impulse decision, I was looking at my TV. It's 42 inches, and I'm sitting X amount of meters away. I'm like, this TV is unbearable. I can't fucking read a thing. I have to sit literally at the end of my couch to see anything, and I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I've been thinking about upgrading my TV for a little while. I was like, okay, well, let's have a look. Let's look what's going on around. And then I saw that, JB and Good Guys, whatever, have this 50 months interest free thing. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never wondered how that worked. Well, you know,
Hang on, just to cut you off. It's not interesting. It's interest free, so lack of interest. It's
oh,
not very interesting
boom.
at all. Boom.
Well,
Dead joke.
Yeah, that's a pretty good dead joke, and delivered with that dead.
That's it. I'm done now. That's it for me. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, and you gave it with that like dad flatness too, which was really nice touch. But so I've got a mate of mine that works the Good Guys, and I was like, hey, I am wanting to upgrade my TV. But I'm just looking around at the moment, like because like 50 months interest free thing tickles my interest, but how does it tickles my fancy? But how does it work? What can I do? Whatever. Like I don't want to spend too much. I don't have a lot.
Do you have something that has fallen off the back of the truck recently?
So then he goes, oh, I think I can work out something for you. I'm like, hey, you working today? He's like, yeah, I'm here to whatever. I'm like, yeah, no worries. I'll come down a little bit. So I hop in the car, go down to Good Guys. And on the drive, I get a message from him being like, "Oh, man, have I got you a deal?" I was like, "Oh, here we go." So I get to the Good Guys and I see him. He's a listener of the show and he's been a friend for a while. His name is McLovin or Chris. I know he listens. Something like Lovin. So he hooks me. He goes, "Look, there's this TV, it's a Samsung. Normally goes for about 3,000, but look, there's a new model coming out soon. So this one's probably a little bit obsolete. Probably could knock some stuff off. And coincidentally, end of financial year is around. We can knock a little bit off there too." And then, because he was very, very kind to me, he's like, "Look, maybe I can throw some employee discount on there too." Next thing you know, this $3,000 TV is $1,500. I'm like, oh my God. Here I am debating whether I have to blow McLovin right now, because I was certainly considering it for this massive improvement of a TV. But yeah, and then I put on the 50 months and now I pay X amount of... Well, I can pay it off in like no time at all. So once... For some reason, it's not letting me making any payments right now. Maybe it has to wait for it to process, but I'm going to start making a bunch to throw some money at it, pay it off nicely quickly. Very, very happy. However, what I love about this TV, Max, it's the Samsung Q28, something like that. I don't know what the fuck it is. But 65 inches, so it's a substantial increase on the inches. It is beautiful. It's obviously as you would imagine, 4K Ultra HD with the HDR 10 plus or whatever. It has 120 frames per second. It has variable refresh rate. It has 2.1 HDMI. So it's everything that I'll need to be playing all the games for like the foreseeable future. And by God, Max, is it beautiful. The colors are amazing. The blacks are amazing. The brightness is amazing. It looks good. It's clean. The remote's so fancy. It's USB-C charged. So it's not battery. It's not batteries. It's USB-C. It has a solar panel on the back, so you just leave it on your table and it will charge itself. Unnecessary, but it's amazing. And look, with that as well, this is where I think part of the problem with the Quarry is. If your HDR settings are just if your HDR isn't perfect, the beginning of that game is invisible. Because booting it up on this telly, it wasn't clear. Like, it was still intentionally dark as the game was clearly trying to deliver, but suddenly it wasn't just black something in the foreground. Like, you were actually able to see those minor differences in the dynamic range between those different areas. So, like, if you have a HDR TV or a display that is pretty good, but it may not be, like, immaculate, I would recommend probably putting it on, turning off HDR while you play. It'll actually probably bring up a lot of those differences. Because you're on a HDR monitor too, yeah?
Yeah, I just haven't fiddled with my settings.
I'll pull that mic away from your face, brother. You kind of
they work fine for what I normally play.
Yeah.
But once I fiddle with the settings a bit, I got the color correct.
Yeah, you just kind of had to mess about it.
I just had to fiddle.
Yeah, but it was more like
I think it was literally as simple as switching the monitor into like game mode.
Yeah,
and then it was fine.
Yeah, so I think that kind of checks out with what the telly had to do as well. But yeah, once that happened, the game sort of opened up and looked much nicer. But there are still moments where the game has really weird lighting, right? So there's a moment where I was playing as the character Brian, funny enough, and I'm walking towards this building, and it is a radio station or the announcement station of the camp. And as I was walking up, I was looking at the ground, and then I looked up, and there's almost like there's this line where as you look up, it gets all faded and washed out, and as you look down, it gets all dark and kind of dingy. It's almost like there's like a problem with what would essentially be the God rays, right? And it just looked like, I don't know what it was. I can't explain what the hell happened, but it was so weird, and like there are moments where the lighting is just horrendous. Sometimes it looks fantastic.
You sent me that video. I did not have that issue in that area.
Yeah. Well, you saw it as well. Yeah, because that's why I saw it. Yeah. It's this weird sort of transition.
That didn't happen when I was playing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Weird. But like one of the other things is like you know how last week we were talking. So since last week I was in chapter 3 last week. Now I'm in chapter 7. You finished it, so we'll get some your thoughts in just a minute. But like there are a couple of things. I talked last week about how immaculate it looks sometimes, and it really does. But there are some times where it doesn't look very good at all. Like an example, there's a scene where there's two characters and they're in the water off a pier, and the water is disgustingly bad.
It looks like bumhole.
It looks so bad. So here we but there, the face capture in said water, amazing. Except for that one girl, she has there's one girl whose name's Emma. She looks like she's wearing the skin of another person, where everyone else looks amazing. Super weird. But so yeah, in chapter 7 where I'm at now, like this is where the big pivotal, like because there's 10 chapters as we discussed last week. This is where the big story pivot sort of happens, and it really starts laying down like that Act 2 stuff. You know, where the setup. Now we're starting to get into the payoff of what the game's trying to tell you, and then I haven't concluded it yet, but it's building up on the lore and the story and everything. It's from here on out, like as in from like chapter 5-ish, it is completely different, and it's awesome. Like it really just adds all this extra. Do you agree? Having finished
yes, it's very much stronger in the back half, but that's because it starts getting into the nitty-gritty of what's actually happening to these characters. Your camera's frozen, by the way.
Oh no.
So like you said, at around chapter 5, so about the midway point, give or take, it does. It doesn't get like too info dump heavy, but it does quicken its pace a little bit. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think they still do it very well. My ending was quite. I thoroughly enjoyed the way my game ended. As we discussed last week, I'm very much playing it as I am the director, and I'm telling these people how to act, as opposed to you're essentially wearing their shoes and what would you do in their situation.
But also, but seeing how their characters would respond. So using like the way they speak and their mannerisms, etc., which I guess is kind of the way that the writers intended, but it's me sort of like pulling on those nuances.
So there's one mechanic in this game that I want to touch upon. It's not too spoilery. There's collectibles in the game, and they're cards.
Tarot cards, to be specific.
Tarot cards, and they give little insights into possible futures of what could happen.
Very similar to that of premonitions in the Dark Pictures anthology.
Yes. So in
theory,
the
butterfly effect from Until Dawn.
In theory, I like these. However, if you collect more than one at any given moment, when you reach the end and you can use these, you can only pick one of them. It's kind of bum. It's like, well, I went to all this effort to find them all, but they're like, if you find more than one, it's kind of sort of useless because you don't get to see.
But saying that though, like
you don't know. They give you a quick little tidbit as to what the tarot card itself means, and then you have to kind of guess as to which character that will sync up with, as to what information you get.
So that's the only thing that I'd be unsure about, because as everyone plays their character differently, or their characters differently, I should say. So like an example of it, was like I don't know, the Hangman or something. Like okay, well the way they explain the Hangman tarot card. For me, may read for the character Dylan, which for you it may read for the character of Abby. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but then depending, like if it's a pre-booked it's a pre-written premonition, it may not affect either of them. You know what I mean? So we select it based on, oh, this is how we're playing this character. This character would line up with what that description is.
Yeah. There's also points in the game where, and I think this is a testament to it, to not waste the player's time. Once you've explored an area and there's essentially nothing left for you to find, the character will make the comment of, "I'm done here. We should move on."
Yeah.
Or, I'm ready to go to the next area. Or I think the example that I had was, "I'm ready to sleep now," and you go back and you do that. So you're not just wasting your time walking around trying to find something that just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
So one of the things that I hadn't considered until I was listening to another pod and they mentioned it was that this game was originally meant to go to Stadia.
Yeah, it was a Stadia exclusive.
Yeah, and then 2K picked it up and released it onto the consoles. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because in this pod, and I guess this will be something that you can sort of talk upon as well, is they discuss, compared to the likes of Until Dawn or even the Dark Pictures Anthology, the game is relatively easy in that it's very difficult to fail the quick time events if you're paying attention. And
from memory, I don't think Until Dawn had overly difficult QuickTime events.
Yeah, but the big difference was that they'd be different buttons, etc. Right? So you would have, so the time is always the same, but how, you'd have to go, oh shit, square, boop. So there's a higher chance of you fumbling it compared to say where everything here is done by the left stick. So as it's a Stadia game, which is all about streaming, I presume it would be, in order to prevent people constantly fucking up the QTEs, they make it simple. They put it on the one hand. It's all directional with enough time for you to respond and beat the streaming lag, I guess. Something else I hadn't considered. And because I, aside from one or two QuickTime events that I missed because I was simply not paying full attention, I hit them, well, pretty much exactly as I wanted. But because in the same way that in your playthrough as the director, did you ever miss a QT on purpose to benefit the story?
Yes.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Well,
I also used one retry because I failed a QTE that I clearly should have passed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of the ones where it was like, look at a target and perform an action.
Yeah.
And I was full on that person. And it's like, nope, sorry, you missed. I'm like, well, that's a little bit of BS. So I rolled it back and redid it.
Nice. So So what's your sort of look? We're gonna have a full blown discussion probably in the next week or so with our good friend of the show, Kat, over at Hear Us Scream. And we'll discuss our full thoughts of the game from a story perspective primarily. We will discuss some gameplay and whatever, but it will be primarily from the story side. What's your overall thoughts?
It hits that like 80s, 90s nostalgia, camp horror vibe really well.
Mm-hmm.
The story I found to be quite compelling, especially in the latter half of the game. That's not necessarily to say that the first half is not good. I just feel it's not as strong. It does peak and then goes up at the second half. It's very steady on the first half as you're getting to know the characters. And then once you hit that point of, oh, this is what's actually happening, it does get a lot more interesting. Most likely like that of a horror film.
Yeah.
So
once the big bad sort of appears and everything sort of gets in motion.
Once you've worked out what's going on. And they still do all those tropes of, maybe don't separate everyone during the horror film when people are dying. Like, don't go separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a point in the game at the back end where 3 of the characters are like, we need to go and do this, but not all 3 of us are needed. You stay here. I'm like, no, everyone should go. And they're like, no, you stay there. I'm like, why? There's no reason to leave someone behind.
Yeah.
That's dumb. But it's good fun. I have yet to check out the movie mode, so I wonder if wonder how that plays out, because there is still a few areas where you would walk around. I wonder how they deal with that, whether or not it's still you picking up the controller and moving the character around the space in that movie mode. It kind of seems to defeat the purpose in my mind. So hopefully I will endeavor to check that out before we next record. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, the story was great.
Yeah, look, that's a kind of a line with what I'm experiencing at the moment. Like, I'm hoping the story comes together nicely, and then of course I'm looking forward to how your story gets told compared to how my story gets told, and then compared to how a cat's story gets told. I think that's what's going to be the real interesting part, because when we talk about games like this, it's all about branching paths, etc. Pardon me. The one thing you really want is, so I guess some demonstration that all our choices matter and they mean something. And I guess you're not really going to know that to be the case until the end of the game, where unlike Detroit, you get to see your path as it happens. Where here you get to the end and you go, oh, okay, cool. Well, this is the path that I had taken. So, yeah, that's fine. Beautiful. So have you been playing anything else?
Not really. I just finished Until Dawn. I just installed Until Dawn because I'm gonna play that again with the wife. But no, other than finishing The Quarry, I haven't really been playing much this week.
Nice. Well, I have been sort of jumping around titles, and look, one of the things is, because as we talked about in the past, like month and a half, almost 2 months, about just my complete disinterest in playing games right now, just because of my mental well-being. Having the new TV in almost like a retail therapy sort of way has re-engaged me in wanting to play. And as a result, I've kind of like, oh, let's find games that look amazing. So I pulled up Forbidden West. I'm like, oh, the colors are so... And then I pulled up Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm like, oh, the details are so amazing. And so I've kind of just gone through a bunch of different games, different art styles. I pulled up like Tiny Tina's, and I was like, oh man, like this art style really pops now, and all these little differences. I've just kind of, jumped between all these different titles. I've played things for a little bit, and I played a little bit of MLB The Show today. Just to be like, oh, I wonder how good this looks. And it looks like I'm watching the game on TV. It's absolutely, like, I am. But I mean, like, actually watching a literal in real world baseball game. It looks so insane. So I've just kind of done a little bit of that. But then I also played a bunch of game dev story as well, which looks like shit. Like, it's literally a small little pixel mobile game now on console. So I'm like, why am I playing this when I have this beautiful television? I'm just watching a giant pixel, tycoon games, whatever. But yeah,
we like what we like.
Yeah, we like what we do because we're fucking weirdos. It's how it works. I'm still eagerly awaiting Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town. When is that coming? God damn it! Speaking of making things look good, let's get to the section where we chill and we talk about Manscaped. I know it's a season to rug up Max, but that shouldn't apply to all of the parts of your body. If you join the 4 million men worldwide using Manscaped, the leaders in male grooming, and their 4th generation performance package, you can get your jungle under control by using the promo code FTP. If you head over to au.manscaped.com, you get that 20% off and free worldwide shipping. Look, as you mentioned, time to bundle up. It's cold. You've got your jumpers on. You've got your scarves on. But the one thing you can always do is keep that downstairs areas nice and kept up. Because, update, by the way. Remember how I talked last week before about the possums in my tree? So I reached out to the landlord, received a recommendation from the pest control person being like, hey, you probably should trim that tree back. And, as sometimes we get that advice from our partners. If I had one. But you know what I mean? Like, they'd be like, hey, maybe you should, trim that hedge back a little bit. I'm like, all right, no worries. So I trimmed it a little bit. The possums went away. It looked kind of nice. I went off to the wrestling show yesterday, came back home. Trees fucking gone.
Did they not tell you that it was happening?
I got told they were coming and, like, trimming the tree. I didn't tell me I'm going to fucking take it away. So now I have this giant open front area to my house, just like my dick with Manscaped. So I did that by purchasing the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0, which did come with the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker, two things that I'm sure my landlord used at my house, also not on his front area. I presume it's a him. The Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver Toner, Performance Boxer Briefs, and a travel bag to hold all these goodies. But it's everything you'll need to make your balls a priority this autumn.
It's a little asterisk. We can neither confirm nor deny the use of the Weed Whacker on your landlord's front end area.
Yep, very true.
Shit, I've lost where we were.
It's their 4th generation trimmer, Max.
It is their 4th generation trimmer. It features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. It also gives you the ability to turn the 4000K LED spotlight on and off when you need for a more precise shave, which is really handy at the moment because apparently the east coast of Australia is currently having an energy crisis. And there's just random blackouts. So shout out to Manscaped for putting a light so I don't cut myself.
Yeah, because when I'm sitting here going, man, the price of electricity is really fucking crazy. I'm going to sit here in the dark, but I need to trim my ball sack.
Plus, Ryan, it's also waterproof.
It is.
Rain or shine, the Lawnmower 4.0 will work to keep your nuts slim and air-free. The Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker to chop your worst weeds up in your nose or the ear. The nose and ear hair trimmer uses a 9,000 RPM motor-powered 360-degree rotary dual blade system. That is a mouthful. To provide proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks and snags and tugs in those delicate facial holes.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified facial holes, because fuck. But that's not all that Manscaped offer, of course. Outside of just ball trimming, they are now focused on their efforts on helping you out with helping out your thigh slappers in other ways with their game-changing boxes. These boxes features the Dual Pouch. It is a pouch designed to cradle ya boys in their own special space, lined with perforated performance fabric to keep them well ventilated. Look, basically, just imagine your balls chilling in a hammock on some tropical beach that isn't this coldest fucking area that is Geelong in Victoria, Australia. The micro modal fabric is buttery soft, because that's what I think about when I put my underpants on, keeping your cucumber cool. Walk, run, strut. These moisture wicking boxes breathe without breaking a sweat. You can choose from an arrangement of designs and colors and sizes from small to 3XL for all of your dick sizes. Size of waist is measured, not size of penis. Manscaped has also moved beyond your down under, releasing the premium collection. The full-bodied collection includes a shampoo, a body wash, a moisturizer, a deodorant, and everything that will have you smelling nice this coming autumn. Now, Max, have you ever checked out these Ultra Performance collection?
No, I haven't. I just keep myself to the trimmers and the crop mops.
Well, look, I do.
The beautiful ball wipes. So
they're up behind.
I haven't seen you in a while. They keeping that. You had a busy day yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Did they keep you stank free?
I did. I did take some ball wipes with me. Just after a whole day of moving wrestlers, like. Not my
a little quick shimmy,
yeah.
just like a bowling ball.
Yeah, it's just like, and then I was in the middle of the fucking arena. I was like, what is he doing? I'm like, I'm wiping my balls. Yeah. But look, Max, maybe you should, because if you do use these Ultimate Premium Collection, you will not just be smelling good, but you can feel good about it, because all these products are cruelty-free, paraben-free, vegan-friendly, and dye-free, and all the best ingredients with absolute zero compromise. But you, listeners at home, can get 20% off plus free worldwide shipping if you use the code FTP at au.manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free worldwide shipping with the code FT. I kind of almost hiccuped as I said, hence the big spike there. Make sure you have the best package for your package, and if you choose Manscaped, your balls will thank you. That's enough of that, Max. Let's get in the section we call Inform the Players, where you tell you about what happened this week. Now, Max, I know you've buried it in the news, and I don't know why.
I didn't bury it
because
I've put it like at the top. This is a Sony-related show.
Yeah.
Therefore, the Sony news goes on top. But we're going to skip that today.
Yeah, look, Sony news always goes first normally, but look, this show, you know, it's personality-based. It's driven by us, our interest, which primarily is PlayStation. But there is one interest that Max can get. Like, he's lucky that he's wearing his Manscaped boxes that are holding everything in that nice little fucking pouch, because he is rocking the meanest little thing for Final Fantasy news this week. What happened?
Meanest little thing? That's a bit harsh.
I wanted to say erection, but then I felt bad. And then
so you went with little?
Yeah, and as I said that, I went, uh-oh.
Dick.
Yes, that.
Well, guys, on Friday morning, there was 2 showcases. One was kind of meh. That was Capcom's.
It was kind of meh.
It was kind of meh. The other was the Final Fantasy VII 25th anniversary showcase. Now, I went into this thinking it could be bullshit, because I think about a day before on Twitter, there is a gentleman known by as I think it was the Snitch or the Leaker.
Yeah, the Snitch.
And he had been leaking stuff all throughout this Key 3 week.
Keith. It's so funny.
Basically, it was I think it was something along the lines of Final Fantasy VII and then 4 colored boxes, which alluded some people to think that
because it was blue, green, red, and black.
Red and black. Yeah.
So under standard marketing, blue PlayStation, green Xbox, red Nintendo, and
Switch.
PC, I guess.
Yeah. So they're like, but it's finally leaving its PlayStation exclusivity. It's going to be everywhere. And I'm like, it's just going to be bullshit fucking mobile games, because they announced like 30 games to come. They're coming in the package of Final Fantasy VII. And I'm like, maybe we're going to get a Crisis Core remastered. This could be it. This could be it. So I went in with very low expectations. And, you know,
you went in with low expectations, but you're like, this could be Crisis Core. That's a pretty huge expectation.
Just to prove my point. They kicked it off with some mobile games. I'm like, I knew it. I fucking knew it. So they spoke about Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, which is their battle royale game. It's getting some new content. They're adding some new stuff. It's fine. And then Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade showed up. They showed us some gameplay, and they're like, hey,
Intergrade?
It's coming to Steam.
Oh.
It's no longer Epic exclusive for the PC. Bring it out on Steam. Cool, that's awesome, you know. Widen that player base. Awesome. And then they announced that Final Fantasy Ever Crisis is getting a closed beta test in 2022 at some point for iOS and Android. This is their ultimate story of all Final Fantasy VII encapsulated in one little mobile game. Cool. It's coming soon. There's a beta coming out this year. Awesome. Bam. Fucking Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion remastered-ish coming this fucking year. Out of nowhere. They're like, coming winter this year. So our summer. Yep. So back end of the year. Last quarter. Bam. Straight after that didn't stop. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Part 2 of the now announced 3-part series for Final Fantasy VII. Coming next winter. So next summer. Which means we will get 3 new Final Fantasy games in the next 18 months, with Crisis Core Remastered coming out this year. We've got Final Fantasy 16, first half of next year, and then we've got the second part of the Final Fantasy 7 remake, titled Rebirth, the back end of next year. What a fucking time to be a Final Fantasy fan.
As someone that is not a Final Fantasy fan.
And they also announced that the development has started for Part 3, ready to go.
Well, there you go. So they'll put about 3 years between the Part 1 and Part 2. Not bad.
I mean, we all figured that it was going to be a 3-part series. Final Fantasy VII is a 3-disc game. The way the first one ended was right when the first disc ended. Makes sense. Cool. Do it. Let's go. They showed off some gameplay for Rebirth, and it looks schmick. On your new TV? Perfect.
Oh, Mark,
So,
I haven't yet to watch it because Final Fantasy is the... But...
no, incorrect. And I'll tell you why. I won't tell you why. It's 25 years, man. The game's obviously good. People are still harping on about it. So yeah, this showcase kind of just fucking topped all expectations that I had of it, and I think this showcase wins Key 3.
Well, I was going to say, because we were discussing last week about how overall Summer Game Fest has been pretty uninteresting, and there's, well, at least for me anyway, there's been not a lot that has jumped out at me. But it sounds like just for you, one showcase blew it apart.
Yeah, Sony didn't win, Microsoft didn't win, Square won. Just talking about Final Fantasy. So we will talk about quickly before we jump into like the PlayStation news.
Well,
Did you watch?
I want you to gush a bit more about all this. Why are you excited for this? Obviously, like Part 2 makes sense, but like, what is about Crisis Core? What is all this?
Crisis Core is cool because it's trapped on the PSP.
Yeah.
So now it's not. It's coming to PS5. Part 2 for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, also PS5 exclusive. Not coming to PS4, just PS5. The fact that they're turning them out as quickly as they are, like I expected to wait a lot longer than what we are. Like this is pretty cool. Now, obviously, granted, all games get delayed, and they have penciled in a pretty big window for their stuff to come out in. At the same time, if they're already working on Part 3, it must mean Part 2 is pretty much done and dusted, or at a point where they think that they will have it done and dusted in the next 12 months.
Well, if they can push it out, yeah. So maybe this could all be like pre-alpha, I guess, where maybe like with a year away, maybe they're sort of allowing to polish to the max, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's really cool that they're remastering Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, because that's obviously. From memory, it's been such a long time since I've played it, having never actually owned a PSP. I borrowed a friend's to actually play it. It's kind of this side-along story that gives background info on some of the characters. And it's really cool that they're allowing people to... because the story of Final Fantasy VII is so convoluted because it's their characters spread across so many games. It's almost as bad as fucking Kingdom Hearts.
Made by the same people, it makes sense.
But now that they're remastering everything and putting everything back together, I think it's similar to what they're doing with the Resident Evil series and kind of rejiggering their timelines back into perspective. It's good for the fans of the original game, and it's great to onboard new people because the story won't be as confusing and convoluted as it once was. That, and the big one is it's no longer stuck on fucking PSP. You can actually play it on a console.
I can understand why that's a pretty huge thing for those.
It's really annoying when games get stuck on hardware that just has kind of become obsolete. And...
Well, yeah, 2 generations ago, and a handheld, so it's not like really true compatibility that's out there.
That's it.
What was your question? Sorry.
So I was going to ask, talking about showcases, did you check out any of the Microsoft showcase? Or the Microsoft Bethesda showcase?
I started watching it on the new telly, and then I got distracted because the Capcom one happened. So I was like, oh, well, I care more about the Capcom one. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, I really didn't care about this one either. So the Capcom one was interesting in that it showed off a bit more about what's coming to Monster Hunter Rise. Showed more about it showed more of the DLC for Village, which is awesome. That got me very interested. Pardon me, because it's telling a lot more about it's essentially like a 8.5, I guess, by the looks of it, from a Resident Evil perspective.
It's doing what I assumed that Resident Evil 9 was going to be.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
which is very, very interesting, which tells me that they're like, because we discussed this previously about how 7 and 8 had such a through story that it would make sense for them to do it as a trilogy. So then 9 would have the conclusion to this whole particular story.
Ethan's story.
Well, yeah, well, we know Ethan things happen and spoilers. But like, yeah, so the finalization of all that story would be great. And there were some things they talked about how with this new DLC in October, you get the new Rose DLC. You also you can play the game in full 3D. Full 3D.
Third person.
Full third person, so you can play it like you could 2 and 3, which is awesome. That's a really cool thing. I was like, oh, I didn't consider that. Sweet. Excuse me. And then they showed off Exo Primal. And I was like, okay. They showed off the exact trailer for Resident Evil 4. Didn't really do much else. Was it needed? No. But I'm glad they kind of did it. Because at least the village stuff was interesting. And if you like Monster Hunter Rise, it makes sense. It's probably the best way to show Exo Primal. But I don't know, it didn't really jump happy. And like when it came to Xbox and Bethesda, I didn't watch it knowing very well that there would, as a PlayStation primary player, it wouldn't get me all excited. And from where it's pretty much exactly what went down. So they talked about Forza, rad. And they did preface the show with everything that's just coming in the next 12 months. I'm like, okay. Which was interesting because then they talked about like Starfield and which apparently looks and plays exactly like No Man's Sky. Which is an interesting decision. But yeah, there was nothing like there was a bunch of things that I thought would be there in some capacity but weren't. Like, where was Senua? Where was Perfect Dark? Where are all these things?
I think they answered their own questions. They're not going to be out within the 12-month frame.
Then what is coming then? In the same way that PlayStation, we've been asking them that exact same question. After God of War, what the fuck is coming out? So if you...
That's what I mean. So they showed off, I think it was like 36 odd titles.
Mm-hmm.
32 of them were coming to Games Pass day one. They're all coming out within the next 12 months. They managed to get some big stuff there. Like they had Diablo 4 there. Obviously that's multi-platform coming everywhere, but showed off with Microsoft, which is good for them. They're obviously buying that company, so it makes sense it's over there. But I think to put anything in there that wasn't in that 12 months kind of goes against everything that they said from the start of their show of this is what's coming soon.
But then they showed the Kojima stuff, which was the one thing.
They didn't show anything of the Kojima stuff. They showed Kojima saying, hey, I'm working with them. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to be out within the next 12 months. But I think they specifically didn't show anything because everything else had gameplay trailers or story trailers. This didn't. This was just Kojima on the screen saying, hey, I'm working with Microsoft.
Yeah. Was there anything that jumped out at you? Because not a whole lot jumped out at me.
Look, some of it jumped out at me. I have the benefit of having a Xbox with Games Pass, so it doesn't hurt me to check out all this stuff. I think the fact that they kind of just went, here's an hour and a half's worth of trailers of stuff that's coming out in 12 months was cool, considering the fact that, Sony State of Play, we got like 10, 12 things with arbitrary dates, and then their big showstopper was, hey, Last of Us Part 1 version 3 is coming out at some point. Like, yes, Xbox didn't show any crazy cool first party stuff. Neither did Sony.
Yeah, they did.
They showed. They did, but it's not new stuff.
Oh, okay. And then they leaked it prior to the announcement, so
yeah, and like it's that weird, like, because obviously everyone's still holding out hope. Like Ragnarok's coming. Cory Barlog's back on Twitter. He's apparently playing Last of Us Part 3. He's playing Last of Us Part 1 version 3. Sorry. Everyone's like, oh, it's coming. I still don't think it is. I I don't know. We're almost in July, and the rumor has it Ragnarok was supposed to be coming out when Last of Us Part 1 version 3 is coming out now.
They'll say drop in September, yeah.
So, they're not gonna drop that early September and then drop God of War 2 weeks later in mid-September. That doesn't make sense. So, have we lost God of War Ragnarok this year to get a game that we've already played twice?
Maybe. Who knows? Who absolutely knows, Max? It's painful.
So, all right. Well, anyway, enough of this speculation.
Let's get into something that excites you, because you're
actually. I mean, this is still speculation, but this as you alluded to, this does excite me because rumor has it that Sony are making a Pro controller, which is great because I had a SCUF controller for my PS4, so I had one of those fancy back pedal controllers, and it completely changed the way I play games. I love it. And going back to not having paddles on the back of my controller has been quite the learning curve. But Sony will allegedly respond to fan demand and announce a premium quality Pro version of the DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5 potentially later this month. The controller, codenamed Hunt, has been revealed by journalist Tom Henderson, who has a relatively sturdy track record when it comes to industry insider matters. He claims the device will feature removable analog sticks, trigger stops, and rear button paddles, like the short-lived back button attachment for the DualShock 4. It is possible the pad could be announced as early as this month, with Henderson hinting that Sony has a number of smaller non-console hardware announcements planned for June, although he did fail to elaborate on what else those could entail.
See, this is interesting.
So this is a guy that leaked, was it last week or the week before, about the Kojima title, and that article had since been removed. So, yeah.
Tom Henderson is a trustworthy name in the game space when it comes to leaking and providing information. So this is 100% happening, or at least there's R&D for it in some capacity.
Yeah.
What intrigues me though is part of its big selling point here is removable analog sticks, etc. Now, I don't know where it is.
Will that inadvertently affect fucking stick drift?
Well, potentially. But one of the let me see if I can. I don't know where the controller is, but there was a little while ago we reviewed a controller called the Thrustmaster eSwap Pro. It was a controller that had you could interchange the D-pad, the thumbsticks, you name it, but it was all like a little, like you sort of slip it out and you could buy new kits for it. So if you wanted to have, say if you're a fighting game player, you need one stick, a D-pad, and extra buttons, so you could read like an arcade stick, but on a little controller. So you could swap out the right analog stick, put some extra buttons in there, and then get a better D-pad and get a thumbstick or whatever. So like it's already been done before under another controller. So it's interesting whether that controller stopped getting support really quick. So it's safe to say that I'm very curious on.
I think you'll find that this is probably not as customizable as that. You'll probably find that the removable sticks you can remove them, so instead of being indented on the top, they'll be like the PS3
Well, that one had this as well. You could swivel off,
or it'll have different length sticks. I don't think you're going to be able to have offset thumbsticks similar to that of like an Xbox controller. I think you're stuck with the layout of what it is. I just think you'll be able to change the stick type.
Potentially. As in, yeah, you can screw up the... Very similar to how, like, the Elite controller, you can swivel it off and put a new one on. Yeah. So, look, as I will...
That's kind of what I'm picturing is they're just going to transfer what the Xbox Elite controller is to a DualSense controller.
Yeah, because like, my brain went to the eSwap, but then now you mentioned like that's probably a much simpler way to do it, and you can sort of promise the integrity of the controller in itself. And, I have gone on the record saying that the Elite controller is one of the best controllers ever, except, I guess that was pre-DualSense in the extra features of DualSense. But I loved the Elite for its heaviness, like the metal sticks and stuff, like the buttons, everything about it just feels really, really good. And one thing I did enjoy about the Razer controller that I reviewed a number of years ago, where the tactile buttons had that good click to them, so they felt better. If they can integrate that into this Pro Control, then I'm already in, and I would buy it in an absolute heartbeat. The swappable sticks doesn't really do a whole lot for me, but like give me some tactile buttons. Oh, give me that. That'd be amazing. So what for you, Max, as someone that loves your Pro controllers, what would you need for you to spend the money on this?
I mean, just having like programmable back paddles is enough for me.
Because like I always think back paddles are a really great idea, and I never end up using them, or I bump them and I'm dying.
No, they're so good. They're so good. Considering the fact that I don't play as many first-person shooters as I used to, I probably don't need one because that's mainly what I would use it for. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what they look like when they come out and what the price difference is, because obviously there are third-party ones out there, but they're so incredibly expensive. They're like the cost of 3 DualSense controllers.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Speaking of insane, so Firesprite, one of the newest pickups from Sony, they're moving offices. Well, that part itself isn't that exciting. They're like, hey, here's a report. People are moving buildings. No, but this is massive, because this is, in fact, a massive building. So the team, which currently occupies a roughly 2,000 square meter foot vanilla factory, is moving to the former Bibley Line headquarters in Liverpool, UK's Rope Walks district, and is taking over the entire 50,000 square foot building. The building, named Dukin Park, actually includes a former library, but it's all being converted into a modern office space. And apparently developer Firesprite has signed a 10-year lease, so it looks set to occupy the property for at least the next 10 years or the foreseeable future. That is a staggering dollar investment, Max, in a pretty new team. What do you think they need so much space for?
I have no idea. Obviously, they're looking to grow.
Would hope so.
What are they working on at the moment? They're working on one of those
VR, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, yes.
So they're like, yeah, they are, because they're the ones that are working on the Call of the Mountain. Call to the Mountain. Call of the Mountain?
Well, that's what they're doing. They've just bought 50,000 square foot of fucking recording space.
Of motion capture.
They're gonna build a fucking mountain in that.
No, actually, this makes more sense. So now I don't believe Sony owns their own motion capture studio. I know they have been doing it out of the UK from memory. I don't.
Now but
maybe that's
48,000 square feet extra.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe this is them, because we've looked at Sony's big business practices semi recently, and like they talk about how we've just talked about how they are making decisions that benefit a bit of a longer term plan, whether it be, buying a studio just to support their PC launches. They have Valkyrie, which will just support the other teams. Like, they are playing a longer game in the same way that we saw with Embracer buying publishers and like tech companies and like things that aren't just game developers. So maybe this is a little bit of that. So that way, rather than in the same way they have like the Guerrilla has their primary engine that they've used with like Kojima and stuff, and Sony having now a financial stake in Unreal, I'm sure they'll be pivoting to using Unreal Engine 5 a lot more. So that's going to save some dollars because of that investment. I imagine there's some sort of dealing there. But with the cost of games getting exponentially higher and higher, and the demand on, I guess, that next level realism that Sony are known to provide, it would actually make a lot of sense just to make your own motion capture space. So if on the presumption, now we could be completely wrong here, and I'm happy to be corrected, but if they do not own their own space, this is the best way to do it. This is a solid purchase.
Next up, we have some more news on the Gran Turismo movie adaptation with District 9's Neil Blomkamp. Will come. It's arriving next year, 11th of August 2023.
That's quick.
The movie, which is said to be in early production last month, has been penned by Jason Hall and will be based upon a true story. No casting announcements have been made.
Based on a true story of a car? Like, I'm sorry, what?
Quote, the film is the ultimate wish fulfillment tale of a teenage Gran Turismo player whose gaming skills won a series of Nissan competitions to become an actual professional race car driver.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Yeah.
I kind of like my theory about the Gran Turismo series better. It's a better use of it.
It's not a series, it's a movie.
I know, but I want it to be a series, Max. The pitch we had a couple weeks ago was much, much better.
Well, the other big bit of news is that the Uncharted movie is coming to Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
It is set to join Netflix on the 15th of July.
Just under a month away, which is nice. I mean, I'm keen to watch that again.
Sony has a deal with Netflix, so it's going there.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, not too bad. Look, I'm very keen.
So I'll watch it.
Yeah, I've stared at the pictures.
I might have to come watch it.
Oh yeah. Come sit come sit on my subpar couch, but watch my really good TV, because that's my next purchase is to get a better couch, because the couch that you gave me that lived in your garage sucks, but it was free, so I'm not complaining. But it sucks. All right, Max, that's all the big pieces this week. Let's get into the quick bits. The first one is, I'm sure, enough. If you weren't already aroused in your Weeb week, you certainly are now, because Persona is making a comeback with Persona 5 Royal receiving a PS5 version later this year, which would be cool.
21st of October, apparently.
Yeah, no, like I look, as much as I shit on Persona, I would be open to playing it again, and like I do have it. I'll play a PS5 version for sure. I think it would look amazing. But that's not all. Persona 3 and Persona 4 Golden will also be coming to PlayStation this year. However, the marketing next year. However, marketing materials are currently only showing the PS4 logo. It was announced this week that it's coming to Games Pass. So
these were announced at the Xbox showcase. And they mentioned that they were only coming to Xbox. They are in fact coming to everything. This is really cool because Persona 3 and 4 are stuck on fucking PSP again.
Or PS2.
Similar to... and
Vita.
Yeah.
Persona 4 Golden's on PC, so it's relatively easy to transfer over, you would think.
Yeah. But it's interesting that they're only rocking the PS4 logo, not PS5.
Yeah. Oh, maybe I can... I might be able to play in Vita again. I can play Persona 4 Golden. That'd be fun. The Quarry's missing multiplayer mode, which was previously announced as being delayed, is the result of the current ongoing war in the Ukraine. And this was as part of the team that worked on that multiplayer were based out of said country. Bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you just kind of don't realize how like global things are set up. Like there was... So I think something was the production.
They had to like pick up their team and move their server farm as well.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
but obviously. I had no idea it was based out of Ukraine. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah,
Overwatch 2 is having a beta at the end of this month, apparently, kicking off at 4 a.m. on Wednesday, 29th of June. I believe that's Australian time.
Yep.
And will run until mid-July. So you can sign up for the beta on the website, or you can buy the Overwatch 2 Watchpoint pack on the PS Store. Now, apparently, there's in talks of Overwatch going free-to-play moving forward.
It is free-to-play going forward.
Already? Well, there you go. I don't fucking care.
Overwatch 1. Overwatch 2 was announced that it will be...
Oh, there you go.
The PvP content will be free-to-play.
Fantastic. For those that care. Yeah. Housemarque is working on a new IP, according to a new interview with Video Games Chronicle. Awesome. And I know this one got you, because you've just had a week, Max.
It's been a good week for RPG fans.
Yeah, because Dragon's Dogma 2 is officially in development.
Another solid game.
Yeah, you are living the fucking dream right now, is all I'm going to say.
Upcoming titles for this week, though, Ryan. We have Sonic Origins coming to PS4, PS5, June 23.
Okay.
We have Capcom's Fighting Collection, PS4, coming June 24th. Disgaea 6 Complete, PS4, PS5, June 28th. DNF Duel, PS4, PS5, June 28th. MX vs. ATV Legends, PS4, PS5, June 28th. Cuphead, The Delicious Last Course, PS4, June 30th. Outriders DLC Worldslayer, PS4, PS5, June 30th. And The Galactic Junkers, PS4, June 30th.
I might.
Anything there tickling your fancy?
Outriders. I enjoy Outriders. My game of whatever year it came out because I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was last year. I enjoyed it so much. I will have to reinstall it to remember how to play it. But fuck yeah, I'm down for some more DLC. Because once again, even though the story itself, I kind of stopped caring about at some point. I was just playing it very similar to The Division. The gameplay was so tight that I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course sounds good if I was actually able to finish the base game. But yeah, as I can't do that, I'll have to wait. What about you?
Yeah, Cuphead and Outriders.
Nice.
For sure.
But yeah, because we never ended up playing some multiplayer Outriders, did we?
No, of course not. Our time frames just never aligned.
Yeah, our schedules are all different, and I'm a big fan of playing games by myself, so it actually worked out pretty well for me. Because I like playing games by myself, and things lined up just well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. But that does bring us to the end of the show, because I am unquestionably about to fall asleep. So Max,
I have to go to work.
Ooh. All right, Max, send this show home so I can please snooze.
Well, everyone, this PlayStation conversation happens every Monday morning at 8 a.m. on podcast services, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you'd like to come and talk future conversations with us, come and check out our socials. Facebook, Discord, Instagram, and Twitter. All of our links can be found in the description below.
If you want to join the conversation as it happens, head over to twitch.tv/thepopcultures, where you can watch us record this show live, where you can jump in the chat and become part of the show. If you want to support the show, you can by telling your friends, telling your family about this PlayStation pod. If you are listening on podcast service, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a written review. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below. I endeavor to answer every single comment. If you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopculturists, as well as our merchandise store, PopCulturists.com/shop, where you can buy shirts, other assorted shit without logos on it, or you can help support us by supporting the brands that support us, like our friends over at Manscaped, by going to au.manscaped.com, save yourself 20% off, and get free worldwide shipping using the promo code FTP. But until next week, I'm Ryan Bitson.
I'm Max Cooper.
And that was for the players.
And now you're like, I'm fucking dead.
And